All right, hi everyone. Welcome to Resilient Leadership in Infant and Early Childhood Mental Health. This is our second session. Thank you all for joining. So this training is actually a part of our community wellness and peer support training academy series. I am the co-lead of the CWOPS team. That's what we call it for short. I am Jasmine Boatwright. Oh, I'm moving too fast. So quick disclaimer, this presentation was prepared by Intact under a cooperative agreement. None of the opinions shared today will be are from or endorsed by SAMHSA, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Service Administration. All materials appearing in this presentation, except that's taken directly from the copyright resources, in the public domain may be reproduced or copied without permission. All right. Quick thing around session security. In the case of any issues that may occur, this session will immediately time out and end. What will happen is do not use the same link. A new link will be sent to your email with further instructions if for some reason we have some type of security issue. All right, here you see a host of all of our Intact partners. I am representing Youth Move National, but we also have CARS, Change Matrix, FREDLA, Texas Institute of Mental Health and Excellence, Center of Child and Human Development, to name a few. Here you can find a list of the other resources that we offer here with Intact. We offer more than just these trainings. We offer individual coaching and consultation, learning exchanges, customized coaching, training academies, 5 Things Digest, all types of resources like podcasts, and just practical tools that you could use for your day-to-day work. All right, just breezing through some commonly asked questions. After this presentation concludes, you will receive a certificate of completion. You will also get a copy of the presentation and a copy of this recording. If you need, oh, I'm going too fast. I'm going ahead of my slides here. If you need CEUs, please, or CE hours, please complete the survey form at the evaluation at the end, and that will automatically take you to the CE hours form. That way you can get your credits. Well, again, I want to welcome you all to this session. Before we get started, I do want to just say we would love to hear from you, who you are, a little bit about your role and what you do, what landed you here maybe, and feel free to, instead of asking your questions in the chat box, we ask that you click the More button on that same toolbar and go to the Q&A section. That just makes it a little easier for us to follow where the questions are versus the just kind of back and forth chatter that is happening in the chat box. If for some reason you do end up leaving your question in the chat box, we'll do our best to get to it, but we're not 100% sure we'll see it. So if you can, just click the More option at the end, at the bottom of the screen, go to Q&A and drop your questions in there. With all of that being said, I want to welcome you all again to today's session on resilient leadership. This is our part 2, so hopefully you are all there for part 1. With that being said, I will go ahead and pass it over to our presenter for today, Mrs. Dallas Rayvig. Sorry. Uh-oh, I was trying to.
Thank you, Jasmine. You did it. You did it.
Thank you. I was trying to move the slides at the same time. It didn't work for me.
Okay. Good morning, everyone, and I hope you all have had your caffeine, your sugar, or whatever it is, your soda, that you need to get your body and your brain moving this morning. I know for me, it takes copious amounts of caffeine. So we're going to all get through this together today. And I think somebody's going to have to do my slides for me, or there we go. All right. So welcome. We're going to do a large group welcome in just a moment. I want everybody to understand that this part 2 part of resilient training, resilient leadership is going to involve hopping in and out of breakout rooms. And so I'm going to ask our intact team, if Carr's team, once folks get in, we have our numbers. If you will go ahead and start creating breakout rooms of 5 for us, that would be awesome. You will hop in and out of your same small group each time. So just to reduce a little bit of anxiety and the feelings of being beamed up to the aliens. That's what it always feels like to me, that I'm being beamed up whenever I'm snatched out of a small group in the middle of a sentence. So in order to reduce some of that anxiety, you will return back into your small groups and continue discussions throughout the training today. All right, so hopefully most of you attended the first training. If you did not, that's fine. We're going to do a really quick review before we head into our breakout rooms for today. So next slide. All right, so last couple of weeks ago, we talked about the theoretical foundations of the resilient leadership. This is what we're talking about, is a resilient leadership systems model, only because resilient leadership, the resilient leadership and resilient leadership systems models have a slight difference in the definition of resilience. So today we're going to talk about, I'm going to talk about that a little bit. We did discuss core practices last time. This time we're going to practice those core practices. We're going to put them into practice thoughtfully. Okay, so with that being said, I do want to give you this definition difference real quick. So when we think about resilience, we think about, or resilient leadership, we think about leading with grit. And when we think about resilience, think about bouncing back. But the resilient leadership systems model, as we talked about that family systems theory last time, what we're doing is we're talking about leading within the context of relationship systems or relational systems. So the many systems all around us. So we have these smaller systems, relationship systems. But then we have the bigger systems, such as our organizational systems. But then we also take into account the emotional system. And the emotional system really is the instinctive way that individuals relate to one another, the way we relate to one another instinctively. All right, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that as we move along. Next slide. All right, and I have lost, you guys, hold on just a second. I've got to find where you went. My screen just did something funny, so I am going to find you, and now I have found you. Yay. But now I don't see, the screen is not being shared, correct?
Your slides aren't being shared.
My slides are not being shared. Okay. So do I need to do that? Let me find those.
No, one moment. Let me pause.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
There we go.
All right. So back in action here. So our objectives today, we're going to review the core practices of resilient leadership very quickly. Going to introduce to you the how of resilient leadership. We talked about the why of resilient leadership last time, and this time we're going to talk about the how, and we'll discuss and practice strategies that lead to becoming a step down transformer and resilient leader. All right, next slide. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do some introductions. So what I want you to do is in the chat, I know you probably already dropped your name, but introduce yourself, your name, the state in which you live and or work, and your title. And if you've already done that, I haven't looked at the chat. Have we already kind of done that this morning?
A little bit, Dallas. There are a couple of folks who said good morning, and
Okay.
but there
All
might
right.
be some room for some others who want to join in on the fun.
Yeah. So if you have not introduced yourself yet, go ahead and tell us who you are and the state in which you live and work, and your work title and what sector that you work in. For example, you may be a parent, educator, supervisor, and so you work in the home visiting sector. So let's go ahead and just do that real quick so we can see who our audience is this morning. King County, Washington, our Washington friends. Kiki, I love Kiki. Let's see here. Who is this? Oh, there's DC, Washington, DC, family support specialist. So we've got system of care program director in Pennsylvania. Oh, I love my Pennsylvania friends. Brandy up and over in Pennsylvania. And I see a lot of folks from Alabama as well. Well, it is good to be here this morning, and we are very thankful that you guys are here. And I'm just amazed at all the different roles and responsibilities that are here today. So we welcome everyone to the training today. All right, next slide. So this is a large group discussion, what we're about to do, and it's going to require that you guys take yourselves off mute, and we're going to have a larger discussion, and we can probably take the slides down really, really quick, and we can put the questions into in here.
You're muted. Oh, okay, great.
There we go. Okay. So let's think about one of the things I first want to think about before we address what characteristics of a leader demonstrate trustworthiness. I want to talk about the emotional system. And when we talk about the emotional system and it being the instinctive way in which we relate to one another, when we're relating to one another, what might that look like, either in our personal relationships or our work relationships? How do we interact with each other?
I'll go if, oh, but I see Tondra has her hand up.
Okay. Go ahead. And then Tondra, and then we'll get Tondra since you're already up on the screen.
Okay. When I think of, communicating and interacting, like looking at the person when I'm talking, responding to what they're saying, looking at their body language and, just going off of that. So it's like a whole bunch of things when interacting both personally and professionally with anybody. It's really being present in the moment and hearing what's being said.
Okay. All right. So being present in the moment. Thank you, Cecilia. Is that right? How do you pronounce your last name?
Estramera.
Estramera. That's beautiful. Thank you, Cecilia. All right, Tondra, you've got your hand raised.
I always look at when I'm interacting what I can identify in the other person about myself, either where I have healed or where I need healing. And in those areas where I know I need healing, then I offer up relatability in what I would want for myself, how I would want to be heard, how I would want to be acknowledged. So I exemplify that in the other person that I'm relating to, whether it's via conversation, audible, or physical face to face.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Thanks, Tandra. Chris Marzan.
Hello, good morning. Excuse me. When I think of connection, comparatively to like motivational interviewing or other stuff, there's a course that I took with emotional CPR, and for me, connection is really thinking about their emotions, their feelings, acknowledging it, recognizing it, stepping into the conversation, and predominantly listening. It's more listening than anything else. And then and this could be applied to our clients, to our colleagues, to our boss, to our children, all across the board. And so emotional connection, heart to heart connection is what I do intentionally, just for a better relationship with whomever I'm interacting
Okay. All right. Awesome. Awesome. Thanks, Chris. Karen Barnett, I believe your hand is up.
Peace, blessings, and imagine possibilities. I first seek to make sure that I have an established rapport with those individuals. And when interacting, it is more important for me to seek first to understand what's going on, what they're communicating with me, and then to complement that for them to be able to understand what it is that I need and how we can find the win-win and synergize to get both of our mutual needs met, but more importantly, making sure that the lift is easier so that we're able to provide the most effectual impact for the individuals that we're providing services for.
Okay. All right. Awesome. All right. We'll take one more. Lindsay, go ahead. Thank you, Karen. Thank you. That's great.
Yeah, so I think really it's less like, I don't know, it's not really characteristic, but it's more our actions, right? We show up on time, we show up when we say we're going to, we are consistently there for, there for them and supportive and things like that. It's that consistency over time that builds that trustworthiness.
Yes. Yes. So some of the things when we talk about characteristics of a leader that demonstrate trustworthiness. So what I'm hearing, the common theme from everyone was being present. Being present and being able to scan your surroundings, to read the room, to have an idea of where everyone else is in that moment in time in the room, and that the ability to be present even when we may not feel like being present. And we're going to kind of talk about that. How do we do that? How are we as leaders able to be present with someone else's dysregulation when we in fact are dysregulated ourselves? Because in the real world, all of these things that we do well as leaders are not always accessible. How do we access these skills in the real world? So that's kind of what we're gonna approach today. Is all of this looks good, it all sounds good, it's all beautifully packaged, but how do we use it effectively? And we know that we can't do this 100% of the time, can we? We can't. I mean, think about it. We're not going to always be in a space where we can access these wonderful self-regulation skills, this ability to step back, all of these things. And you know, so we need to be able to give ourselves grace. When we're able to give ourselves grace, we're able to give those whom we lead grace. We're able to give our team members grace. So we have to be able to give ourselves grace and go into this thinking this is a beautifully packaged model. You know, this is going to be me 24/7. I'm going to be the best resilient leader ever in the world in the history of mankind. Well, you know, you're setting yourself up for failure. Let's talk about reality, because life can be stressful, can it? And even as a licensed therapist, I still have to continuously work on some of these pieces. And in the last 2 years have been a huge growth spurt for me in regards to some of this, really looking in the mirror and going, oh, that was, I'm gonna have to apologize for that, because that didn't come out like it needed to. And I didn't stop and think beforehand. I didn't read the room well. So these are all things, you know, that I too must practice all the time. But this is the beauty of thinking about resilient leadership within systems, is that when we sit and think of it within all of these different systems, then we can get a better bird's eye view. And we're going to talk about that bird's eye view coming up next. So let's go ahead and let me get these slides back up where I can. Oh, yay. Thank you, Bridget. Woo. So now I've got my notes right here. All right, good. Awesome. So the first thing we talk about, one of the big components of this particular leadership model is seeing, watching for those emotional processes, recognizing underlying emotional dynamics within the organization. And we call that the balcony view. So the authors of Resilient Leadership 2.0 call it balcony view. I've always called it a bird's eye view. Same difference, right? So when we're looking from a bird's eye view or from a balcony view, we are observing not only everyone else, but we're observing ourselves. We are observing ourselves and the system with curiosity and wonder in order for us to build, self-awareness and to expand our own capacity for thoughtful action, right? And how does this work? How do we do that? Well, the first thing that we have to be able to do is push the what? Anybody remember what we got to push? What button? It's the pause button. So the first thing we have to do is push that pause button and take a step back. Practice the pause. And we do this so that we can broaden our perspective of what's happening in this moment in time. And we do that by taking a few mindful breaths to calm our nervous system. So there is a quote, and I probably have it in my notes somewhere else, but it seems like it fits really well right here, that Bowen says that all relationships have predictable ways in which we respond to one another. So when we were talking a few minutes ago about what that might look like, that may not always look like someone's pressing the pause button, does it? Because emotions work with emotions contribute to emotional contagion. So what is emotional contagion? That's when our emotion feeds off of someone else's emotions. And you know what we can thank for that? We can thank our autonomic nervous system for that. And what is it that we talk about in infant early childhood mental health, or especially in infant mental health? That is that autonomic nervous system piece that's very important for developing empathy. Do you remember what those are? They're called mirror neurons. And that is your automatic or your autonomic functioning. Okay, those mirror neurons. Well, if we're not able to practice the pause and take a step back and take a deep breath, what happens is our mirror neurons turn on in the face of someone who's angry or upset or anxious. And then we become angry, upset, or anxious because we haven't learned to control, to bring that autonomic system or that the reaction from the autonomic system into control, into balance, achieving balance between self and other. So when we feel ourselves becoming anxious, we need to be asking ourselves, what is really happening right now, here in this moment? And then we choose a thoughtful response. Okay. So let me see real quick. I want to make sure. Okay. All right. So next slide. Thinking. All right. So when we're thinking, we're recognizing those, oops, sorry, wrong nose. Okay, so when we're thinking, we're analyzing these dynamics and their impact on the organization, on the relationship. All right, and then what's going on in the organization and what am I doing to contribute to the chaos? How is my emotional contagion or my ability to press pause and take a step back? How is it contributing to the chaos? Am I being helpful or am I being hurtful? Conscious discipline. Boy, I tell you what, we can get all kinds of early childhood stuff blended in with this. So understanding how the present is influenced by the past. So what is going on in this moment? What am I contributing to all of this? And what is it that that other person is experiencing? I saw a hand go up and we can get to you in just a second. Of Patterson, last name Patterson. Do you mean to put your hand up? Okay, we're going to keep moving. So understanding in myself what is triggering me and what do I need to do to be able to press pause and take a step back and to think through my response to this person? And then where is this person coming from? What has happened with this person in their life that in the past could be early childhood, their past could be 10 minutes ago that they had an interaction with another coworker that triggered them and set them off. So we need to understand how that's contributing to the present moment in time. Next slide. And then when we're leading, so when we're leading, we're implementing strategies that address both the rational and the emotional aspects. So the 3 stays for being able to lead in a way that addresses both rational and emotional aspects are stay calm, stay the course, and stay connected. Those are the 3 things to remember. Okay. And then we want to think, what is the most responsible thing to do in this moment? And we want to, and again, regularly practicing the pause, stepping back and wondering what is happening in this moment. So let's talk really quick about staying connected. As a leader, it's important that you know what your default tendency under pressure is. All right. And you need to be able to distance yourself from others or to understand whether or not you're distancing yourself or you get too close to them. You know, a leader cannot always be your friend, but they don't need to push you away either. There is a sweet spot there. And then what might you do to do more as a leader right now, to stand apart or to stand with? And those are just some things to think about there. And then when we're leading with conviction, you know, understanding how we react to resistance and what form of resistance triggers us. And we're gonna dig deeper into all of those in just a moment. Next slide. Okay, so in this quote by Edwin Friedman, who is the person responsible for developing the idea of resilient leadership, almost every issue of leadership and the difficulties that accompany it can be framed in terms of emotional triangles, including motivation, clarity, decision-making, resistance to change, imaginative gridlock, and a failure. I think that's supposed to be a failure of nerve rather than failure to nerve. So we want to practice emotional neutrality. So next time someone involves you in a triangle, you want to resist the temptation to take sides and instead listen openly, offer suggestions if appropriate for how they might address the issue directly with the other person, and express confidence in their ability to handle the situation. Maintaining emotional neutrality lowers the anxiety of the triangle overall and helps everyone to think more clearly about the best path forward. And I want to kind of sit here for just a second, right? Triangles are the foundation of every relational system. And of course, they're everywhere. So rather than avoiding triangles, we really need to be working to reposition ourselves within the triangle in a way that lowers anxiety. And that is triangle, the neutrality of the triangle. And I'm going to give you a really quick example. Having being in a another group other than the work group that I am right now today, in another group where a triangle occurred, and it could have been very toxic, and it could have gotten toxic very quickly. I had a co-leader and then a member of a team who were going at it like this, and both of them were coming to me. And so I could have taken sides, and it would have been very easy to take sides based on the situation. And instead, I had to work really hard to practice neutrality. And in the end, because this situation went on for over a year, and in the end, it came out where now both of those people trust me enough to come to me for other things, not with each other because they had to work that out, but they can trust me enough that they can come to me, and then I'm going to practice neutrality, and I'm not going to go into fix it mode, not going to try to solve their problem for them, but I can sit and listen respectfully and hold space for them and encourage them to go to the other person and work it out with them. So connecting, understanding where that person is in that space and time, and attuning to where they are, reading the room, practicing that pause and reading the room. When we feed into that emotional contagion, when we take sides, we are damaging relationships. And we're not just damaging the one that's left out, that we're not taking sides, we're damaging this one too, because now this one's going to know they can take advantage of you. So we have to practice that neutrality. Okay, I think we want to hit the pause button before triangulating. I didn't want to say that. So next time you're about to involve a third party in an anxious situation, pause to reflect on the impact of your actions and what those actions, the impact of them will have on yourself, on the other person, and the system at large. Okay. So instead of taking sides again. I want to reiterate to listen openly. You can offer suggestions if appropriate, but maintaining that neutrality also prevents you from being manipulated by either of the other parties. Okay. All right. So next slide, and we've got some things in the chat comments. Reading the room is so very important. Yes, Tandra, it is. Reading the room is not a skill that everybody has, but it is one that we can all cultivate. We can cultivate that skill. Okay, so Toba Beta, and I hope I said that right, said that a man of calm is like a shady tree. Not shady, but a shady tree. People who need shelter will come to it. So when we talk about being a place of calm or having a shady, cool, relaxing space that someone can come and contemplate what's happening, we talk about that as being a step down transformer. So resilient leaders are able to lead with calm, clarity, and conviction, which we've already established. They're able to do it in the midst of anxiety that is provoked by increasing complexity and accelerating change. Step down transformers are able to lead from strength and know how to care for themselves emotionally and spiritually and physically so that they can sustain their leadership efforts over time. So when we talk about a step down transformer, what is a transformer anyway? What is it? Well, it's a box in which electricity moves through. And when that box gets overwhelmed with power and energy, then what happens? Go ahead and shout it out or put it in the chat. What happens when a transformer box becomes overwhelmed?
It blows up.
It blows up. It explodes. How many of you explode because you held on to all of that angst and energy, that emotional energy inside? You hold it and hold it inside yourself. We explode. We become volcanoes. Okay. Case in point, about 3 years ago, I'm going to be honest here. Okay. Let's just be honest and transparent. I've been known. This was the point in which I knew I needed to work on this piece right here. Okay. I've been known to clear my desk, to just clear my desk because I am a volcano type where I would hold and hold and hold and hold until I explode. Well, power failure. Yes, a power failure. And what happens is I had to come to an understanding that the reason why I am a volcano type is because as a child, I wasn't allowed to express my emotions. I wasn't allowed to express a range of emotions as a child. I was told to keep it to myself. How the past influences the present. And coming to that conclusion, that aha moment made me realize I've got to learn how to control my volcano. And only I can do that. No one can make my volcano explode. Only I can. So transformers, right? A step down transformer is one who's able to regulate the amount of energy, aka emotion, that's coming into your box. And emotions are contagious. We have to know how to set a breaker. Our breakers have to be healthy. Your mirror neurons, again, function through the autonomic nervous system. Learn how to control your mirror neurons. The greatest gift a leader can give is a well-regulated nervous system. Now, autonomic and automatic, right? How do you control that? Well, it's still all part of our somatic nervous system. And we can learn to control our somatic system through mindful breathing and other activities. Yoga, self-care, all these things lead to a stronger somatic system within ourselves. Okay, next slide, we're getting ready to go into breakout rooms here in just a few minutes. All right, so we're going to go into small groups to dig a little deeper, and we'll return to the larger group to report out. When you get into your small group, be sure you designate a scribe and reporter from your group. Let's see. So we could probably do about 7 to 10 minutes for each one of these. We're going to do this 3 times. Okay. So, our first time we're going into a breakout room. Oh my goodness. You know what I didn't do? I did not do I didn't put my vignettes. I didn't put my vignette in the chat. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. So do we have our breakout rooms set up? Yep. All right. So actually, our group was on fire, group number 5. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to call on each group. Does everybody know what group number they were or what room number?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is what I'm gonna get you to do. So everyone who is the designated reporter, go ahead and put their hands up, and that will line everybody up on my screen, and I can just go down the line, and we can start with our questions and everything. Okay, Lindsay, Lindsay, do you know how to put your virtual hand up? Okay. There we go. Yay, she did it. All right. Thanks, Lindsay. Okay. So let's start with Sarah Ellen. Sarah Ellen, how in your group, how did you guys discuss how to identify the presence of emotional processes that may be influencing reactions?
Well, we first talked about kind of what we would do, not necessarily how to identify them. And then we talked more about what we thought the emotional processes that may be influencing the reactions. So
okay.
we got that it says in the vignette that this person is stressed, and we are assuming that he's worried and aggravated. We made the assumption that he probably has deadlines and that something's happening for him to be able to report out to his senior leadership team. And then what we would do, which I thought that I just blanked out on who said it, but she did a really good job. It's hard not to react, but to give a professional response and ask the question, what do you need? And ask if maybe they would reword or rephrase what they said so that you have a clearer understanding of what you need to do to support them.
Very nice. Very nice. Thank you, Sarah Ellen. Jennifer Wilson, you are next on The Price is Right.
Thank you. So in my group, we talked about how to kind of, the first step would be taking that moment to check in and practice that pause and get yourself under control and regulated first, because if you respond immediately, then that might not be the best situation for everyone. So taking that time to calm yourself down first, and then when you're in that state of calm and when you are ready to approach the situation, being curious and asking questions like, are you okay? And I can see your frustration. One of the questions the phrasings that I really liked was, I'm wondering, you seem, you know, and being empathetic about the role that they're in and understanding that there's probably a lot of pressures going on. There's a lot of things that you don't understand what's going on behind the scenes, and really trying to put yourself in that position of having that many demands.
Nice, nice. Thank you, Jennifer. Lawana is the next one up.
Okay, so we talked about possibly starting off with something nice, and it all depends on your relationship with the boss and your your level of separation, because it could be some things that they can't share with you, and being able to respect that, but also knowing and being able to inquire about what's going on, and then being very supportive and saying, is there anything that I could do to help you? What can I do to take some of this off your plate? But there again, it all depends on that relationship with you and that person.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, Lawana. Karen, yes, you have your hand up. You're next.
Good morning. Robust conversation in our chat, and the common themes were that we were making that we should not make assumptions. So one of the first things we wanted to do was to ask for clarity if our relationship was close enough with the individual to ask for clarity. And then I have one-on-one interaction for clarity, whether that's if they drink tea, if they drink coffee, if you happen to run into them in the copy room or somewhere else, just have a one-on-one interaction with them if the relationship is foundational in that way. And if not, ascertain your relationship and approach to support. I know that we're not close. However, it appears that I feel that we have noticed that, and one, it opens up a door, but it's not making a blatant accusation. And if none of those things work, identify someone who is closer to that individual to bridge, to provide the support. Talking with that person and saying, I have noticed, we have noticed, but we know that you are closer to them. Have you noticed? What can we do to support you, to support them? And I think one of the best things that we talked about was observe, note, and inquire. That encompasses the full pause, but more importantly, it allows us to, one, build stronger relationships with the team, and then be able to identify the person that can go to them, open the door, and let them know that there is a bridge that we are willing to be a part of, that we are part of the team. How can we support you if support is needed?
Very nice. Thank you, Karen. I do want to caution about going to another person and saying, I've noticed, we know that you are very close to this person, and this is something that we've noticed. Just be mindful that doing that can create another triangle. And as long as there's trust in there and you are not sharing information with this other person that you're going to, it can create a toxic triangle. So the person you're concerned about could, if they knew that you came to one of their colleagues about it, could feel like that you are judging them, or that you're stirring the pot or whatever. So just be mindful of that situation. If you were to do that, read the room, make sure you're very skilled at reading the room and you know what you're doing when you do that. That's all I'm asking, because it can create a felt sense of toxic leadership. So just putting that out there. All right. But very good, very good. I love the way you guys broke that down. That vignette. Okay, Cecilia. Estramera. I want to do my R's. Estramera. I don't know. I
That'd be
can't.
it.
I'm terrible. I'm terrible at speaking with other languages and dialects and stuff because I don't know. I'm so Southern, I guess. It just comes out sounding very not good.
Uh, um, if it's any consolation, I only speak enough Spanish to fool people,
Ah,
and that's where it
yeah.
stops.
That's my daughter. That's my daughter. Okay.
Okay. So in my group I kind of found it a little funny because we were talking and I think it was Denise was like, I'll just ask and I know sometimes it can feel very almost antagonistic to ask somebody, but it did say, that the boss was being curt and distant and sending a defensive emails. So, at that point, you know, I also would have asked, but of course, then we talked about, asking in the right way, to kind of figure out what's going on and being aware that, there's so many facets. I love my group because we all were like me, right? There's like so many facets. Is it a new boss? There's somebody that just got promoted, there are things to consider where they may be under extra stress. And so being able to recognize that and take a moment to just recognize what might be going on. I also, I talked about like I'm definitely the type of person that'll see something and like if I got an email and it was curt and anxiety inducing, I would just try and read it, kind of read between the lines and do what's asked and kind of see, I just kind of watch what happens to see if I can get to the root of the problem. And then once I have more information, discussing it with the boss in this case, like, hey, I've been getting these emails, they're making me very anxious. I want to help. What can I do? Is there something I can do to be of more support? And that's kind of where, our group was talking a lot about was just recognizing they may be under stressors that we don't understand and that it may not be personal, and then figuring out how we can support each other.
Right. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. How can we support each other? Very good. Thank you, Cecilia. So we are, for the sake of time, because we're cutting it really, really, really super close. What I'm going to do is, if we can go through the next folks that have their hands up very briefly, then we're going to go through the next two slides together as a larger group. Does that sound fair to everybody? Because I want to give everybody a chance to be heard. So, Lindsay, let's be sure we're making it very brief because we're really close on time.
So we pretty much discussed, well, one that we thought the questions were a little confusing. Could have been, we didn't go the first one, but really like these are, how do you know that you have reaction? You're the one having the reaction, right? So you might be having a reaction to something you think you perceive is happening that's not actually happening, or so really that you're the one having the reaction, discussing that reaction with your supervisor.
Okay, great. Absolutely. And that prevents triangulation. That prevents the triangulation when you go directly to the person that you feel a conflict with. That prevents triangulation. Absolutely. Thank you, Lindsay. All right, Tandra.
Definitely agree with what has been previously spoken, and also taking a look at what's happening within you, because a lot of times when we are feeling anxious, and emails do not often convey tone or what that particular person is actually feeling. So a lot of times we have to push that pause button and actually address what we are feeling on the inside of us that we are projecting into that email. And then also offering up as a suggestion to our boss, the personality test. That way everybody can have an understanding of what everybody personality type is, and they work better as a group, because now we know when we see certain things or hear certain things that it's not coming from that person to be intentionally harmful, but this is, how their personality type convey different things. So it's received better and we can work better together as a group.
Thank you, Tanja. It sounds like you've had a little bit of it. Somebody in your group has had a little bit of experience around understanding everybody else's temperaments and personalities. I do want to caution that when you do that, if done within the context of an already toxic organizational situation, those temperament and personality types can be used against you. So just be mindful. Nothing is 100% good, is it? There's always going to be pros and cons to every decision, to every way of being. There really is. There's a pro and con to everything. Understanding temperaments is great. It is wonderful. A resilient leader is going to understand how to use that information and how to manage pot stirring triangulations that may occur as a result of those results. Okay. All right, Carla.
So a lot of people touched on things that we talked about. A couple other things is viewing this as an opportunity to either build connection or deepen connection. So reflecting back what you think is going, what in a very positive manner, what you think you need to do for whatever the assignment is, instead of not making assumptions. And I think one of the things is the information we don't have is this normal? Is this type of email coming from this boss normal? Is this their normal way of communicating? And maybe they're not being negative or defensive. Maybe they're just very concise and blunt in how they put things out to try to minimize ambiguity, and looking at it that way and kind of reframing it. But just reflecting back, is this, my understanding what we need to do might be a good first step, particularly if you don't haven't built that relationship to ask, are you okay? Because that could be taken very offensively. And I do like the idea of reflecting on yourself first to see if you're just receiving information in a more negative way, what is intended. So yeah, that's all
absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Carla. So we want to thank you, everyone. Very insightful information. I'm sorry we're not going to have time to do this with the next two slides, but very, very thought-provoking information here. You want to be able to practice at 6-second centering before and after any important meeting or conversation, so that you can cultivate a calmer, clearer, and more credible presence for yourself as a leader. And cultivating a curious mindset. You cannot be curious and anxious at the same time. You can't. All right. So maintaining that stance of curiosity. Next slide. We want to be able to communicate effectively, right? So if and to do that, we want we have to understand what triangles are present, and what is my role in that triangle, and what is happening with the other person that is influencing the reactions within the triangle. And so communication is an emotional phenomenon. When we practice the pause, step back, and thoughtfully consider our stance, then we can communicate where we stand in any given situation. When we stand tall, we embody our length. We assume a tall, upright posture. It increases testosterone, a hormone which is associated with confidence. Okay. And that's actually, these are pieces, especially the stand tall, is associated with your 6-second centering. So for 6-second centering, you're spending 2 seconds to uncross your legs and feel your feet firmly on the ground, which grounds you and unhooks you from the storytelling, the emotional storytelling that gives rise to reactivity. We spend 2 seconds inhaling deeply to lengthen our spine and embody an upright posture, and then 2 seconds to exhale slowly. That's your 6-second centering practice. So we're doing this constantly all the time. All right, our next slide. I think we dug a little deep into the triangle earlier, anyway. All right, so, and then staying separate yet connected. So the first digging deeper was our seeing. That was viewing, observing from the balcony or a bird's eye view. We just talked about communicating effectively. That's part of our digging deeper with thinking systems and triangles. And now with digging deeper with how we lead, what is my personal vision and what is the vision of the organization? How can I remain calm when others on my team are anxious or reacting to someone else? And how do I communicate my stance respectfully? And how do I remain engaged when we disagree? So you want to be able to be separate yet stay connected by being intentional and striking a healthy balance, regularly assessing the quality of the interaction throughout the interaction, before and after the interactions. And then mindful communication, okay? So emailing mindfully. How many times do we, in a reactionary state, start pounding out that email? Well, I'll tell you one thing. As previously stated, or I don't know, what are some of the things that we catch ourselves saying, or someone per my last email, that's it, per my last email. I mean, you can almost hear the head nod, per my last email, right? With attitude. Okay, so that's when anytime you're fired up, high energy level, and you're wanting to email a response, go ahead and type it out. I would caution you, though, to type it out in a Word document first, set it aside, and then come back to it, because that way you're not tempted with hitting the send button. Okay? If you're really good at not hitting that send button, I would caution to send it, if you can, if you have a go-to person, send it to somebody else and say, ask, can you read this for me and let me know how it comes across? And just let them give it to you brutally and honestly, and then go in and make your adjustments. Okay. Don't send that email out of reaction, because unless you're really good and quick at retracting that email, once that person reads it, you can't retract it. And our words hold powerful, powerful meaning, don't they? Whether they're written, typed, or spoken, they can be very powerful and be hurtful. All right. So I want to encourage you to be mindful in how you respond in emails. Again, compose a draft, stop and take a long, deep breath. Think of a person, think of who the person the email is going to and how you want them to receive it. Okay. Now, you may want them to receive that petty, passive aggressive piece to you. Rethink that. All right. Okay. You can be petty with your friends, you know, and banter back and forth with your little pettiness. Don't do it in the workplace. Don't do it as a leader. Don't do it with your coworkers and your colleagues. Okay. All right. So breathing and the power of breath can be harnessed to bring a sense of relaxation and rejuvenation. What is it that you are needing today? And let's go to the next slide. What is it you need today, and what are you going to do differently now? Oh, Lindsay says she has a friend that uses ChatGPT to write emails. Okay, guys, we can go ahead and put all the pictures back up on the screen now. So Let's talk about that really quick. Chat GPT. Y'all, I discovered Chat GPT a couple of weeks ago. I'm in the National Guard and I have to do evaluations on my soldiers, right? And I just finding bullet points. That Chat GPT became so useful for me. I was like, bullet points for E4 Army evaluation for integrity, right? And I was like, oh my gosh. But always, anytime you're writing anything, like you're doing a presentation or anything like that, if you're using Chat GPT, always put your Chat GPT through a plagiarism software package before you use it. Okay, always do that. It is not perfect. It should be reviewed. Yes, we've been doing a lot of reviews in the last week around some AI verbiage. Okay, so what is it that you guys are going to do differently now? Now that you've heard a little bit about resilient leadership systems model, what are some things that you want to do differently as a leader? You can type it in the chat. You can unmute yourself. Keep in mind the email writer has thoughts of what they wrote. You don't have to rush to respond. Digest and understand it before responding. Absolutely. Be more mindful of when triangles are occurring. I love the 6-second centering practice. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And there are several books on resilient leadership. The one that I use the most is going to be Resilient Leadership 2.0 by Dugan, and her last name is spelled Thur, but I think it's Truer is how it's pronounced. All right, let's see. I have an email set up for a 60-second delay after I hit send. Oh my goodness, Kyle, I'm gonna have to figure that out. A 60-second delay? Check with self at least 3 before engaging mind and body. Absolutely. So what? Microsoft only allows like seconds. Questions, comments, any other discussions in the last couple of minutes of our time together?
I just put in the email, sometimes it's best in the chat. It's not, this is Michelle Cope, not to respond to the email, but maybe by phone or in person if you can. Like a Zoom meeting, if possible, just because sometimes things get lost in translation and tone. That's why I tend not to text a lot. It's just that because it may be coming off as skating, but people just may not know how to. They have so much anxiety when they do emails, so therefore they come across with no like emotion. And it's just, they're just trying to get through that email to get out. So therefore you just gotta, sometimes if you want to get a response, you may say, hey, is it okay if I call you real quick? And that should be the email. Say, hey, I just need to clarify things, over the phone versus through email. So it doesn't, I understand the importance of having a paper trail for instances, but sometimes just having that phone call or that Zoom call opens up another dialogue that may need to be happen in a more professional way.
Yes, yes. The power of the pause before engaging. And then connecting in person, face to face, whether it's Zoom or a phone call. Absolutely. I did have an incident where we had a leadership change in our department, and I sent out an email and I referred to our new head as Secretary Jan Hume. And she came back and she was like, "Are you okay? Is something wrong? What did I do?" And I'm like, what do you mean? What did you do?" And she says, "You referred to me as Secretary Hume." I'm like, "Because that's who you are." And she's like, "You don't have to call me that. That's not how we work." And I'm like, "Okay, it was an email that went outside of our organization, and that's your new role." And she just had to stop for a minute and go, "Oh, so yeah, we got to start calling you Secretary Hume out of respect for your new role, especially with folks outside of our agency, because that shows respect, that we respect you in your new role." And she was like, "Oh, I thought you were mad at me. I thought you were being sarcastic. I thought," and I was like, "Oh, well, maybe I should take a step back and think about how I email if my coworker read sarcasm in there. Do my emails come across that way to my colleagues when I'm just, am I bantering when I don't need to be bantering in an email?" Because not everybody is going to understand that. So yeah. So there we go. So join us, agency preparedness, and I'm going to let our InTech people take over from here.
Yeah, thank
Hi
you all
there.
so much. This is Ashley Singleton. I've been in the chat chatting with everybody. As you all know, that today's training is a part of a series that we have going on right now, community wellness and peer support. So the next presentation in the series is agency preparedness, addressing the impacts of gun violence, on June 26th. And then on July 24th, we're closing out the series on effective communication with motivational interviewing strategies. So I put the link in the chat where you can learn more about the next two trainings coming up. Thank you, Dallas. Thank you. We could put some thank yous in the chat for Dallas. Thank you so much for the two-part training. We hope to share with you all some resources that go along with this training so that the learning continues even after this event ends. We will send you all an email with the recording and some handouts that go along with today's training. If you like a certificate of completion, you will receive one from Bridget. She can email you that. And also, to get the CE hours for today, you have to respond to the post survey. And then after you respond to the survey, you'll be prompted to fill out a form to request those no cost CE hours. So again, thanks so much for y'all coming over here and hanging out with us today. And we'll see you at the next event on June the 6th. We'll see you soon. That's this week. Wait a minute. That's real soon. We'll see you real soon.
That's Wednesday.
Y'all take care. That is Wednesday. We will see y'all back here Wednesday. Take care. Y'all have a good day, okay? Bye.
Bye.